Good morning from Rzeszów. Have I got that right?
Rzeszów.
Rzeszów. Okay.
Rzeszów.
Good morning, Rzeszów. We are sitting here discussing whether the future of marketing is all digital or not, from the perspective of a whole bunch of guys who are in the technology marketing space. My name's Steve Cassidy from PC Pro magazine in England. You can find me online on IT Pro, because rather importantly for this topic, PC Pro itself is only on paper. We're not on the internet. So that gives me a kind of an unusual perspective around this kind of things. And my self-doubt over pronouncing correctly means I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourself, going around in the circle here, and then we can get into the conversation.
Sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Dubiel. I'm a technology director working at Allegro, which is the biggest e-commerce player, marketplace in Poland, and we are looking forward to expanding into the Central and Eastern Europe. And I'm responsible for delivery experience, meaning everything that happens once you buy and you want your goods delivered home, from customer experience, merchant experience, but also logistics and carriers.
Paweł Trocki, I'm with G2A. I'm a Chief Product Officer. I'm responsible for technology, for the product development cycle, and the value proposition that we develop for consumers around the world, for the data analytics as well, and the UX also.
That's all.
Yep.
Mike Skowron, Google Cloud. Hello, everyone. I'm not a marketeer myself, but I'm working with a lot of marketeers on building solutions, products, data platforms, which are then being used for marketing for the last 3 years, I guess.
Cool.
Hi everyone, Maciej, Gozdowski, Warner Bros. Discovery. I'm responsible for the streaming in Poland. So I could say in the end, I'm delivering the entertainment for the streaming to the whole society.
Okay. So, I'm the recipient of marketing about technology. As a writer, I get lots of press releases from people, and it's an extended part of the marketing function, but it's very traditional. The formats are set in stone. The process of a release and information hasn't really been moved forward by various appeals in technology. That says some interesting things about how communications take place, but it doesn't say anything about how people deal with customers. And customers is the whole point of this conversation, that you're trying to have a conversation with people who now do not walk into a retail outlet in order to do their research. They are constrained either by health issues. We have empty seats here because people are unwell at the moment in a very modern way. So let's go around the group here and just sort of talk about the way that the customer audience is changing its demands upon you. Okay, how do you evaluate the push and the pull? And I ask that in all innocence because I'm outside it. I get the press information 3 months before. I don't see the launch campaign. I'm very conscious that campaigns and processes and promotions are on quite a long schedule, and we're now in a very volatile market. In the shorter term, we can't quite say that a 6-month planned marketing activity is going to still be relevant at the end of the 6-month process, which was not true before. So, who wants to go first?
So from my perspective, I think in my industry, everyone's saying content is the king. I start thinking is context is the king. So when we have this retail approach, when everyone comes to the shops, you know what was the intention. Someone was already interested about buying.
Yeah.
Right now we don't know it. So we need to understand the context to be in this moment on the online life, when you understand what is the context to share the product. That's the key. Even if I will produce the greatest series in the world, if I will promote it in the wrong way, it will disappear.
Sure. Right. And does that affect things like even which year you put your budget into, because of the amount of time it takes to get that traction now, instead of being able to do a sudden project-oriented release?
That's completely different thing. Absolutely, time to market and understanding the future is crucial.
Right.
Absolutely, moods, which will be. So if we were producing the comedy right now, which will be promoted 2 years after, the question is, what will be the mood of the society after 2 years?
Yeah, after 2 years, exactly. It's less predictable than the oil price.
It is. That's true.
Who wants to go next?
We had a very turbulent, as you mentioned, few years, and we have seen people on lockdowns trying to do some compulsive buying in the internet, using online channels a lot, because at many times this was their way of dealing with the stress. So we saw the dramatic increase in online sales. Therefore, also we have seen a dramatic adoption of all the digital ways of marketing. Yeah. So from that perspective, the online advertisements, the social media, email marketing, content marketing, that was all booming. But right now we are seeing that these people are really looking forward to coming back to the shops, and the omni-channel experience, I think, corresponding with your content, which is based on the mood of societies. Now the mood of society is to go back to the shops. So I think it was like a little sinusoid that we've seen, where everyone thought that now online is going to stay there with these very high revenues, and it's rather the omni-channel.
And from your point of view, does this shift in expectations drive the use of elastic cloud resources? If you're a business seller, are they actually being elastic, or is that just not important now?
Oh, that's absolutely crucial, because you need to scale for all those activities that customers might want to have going on forward. What I'm thinking about is that when you are a retailer which has got online sales and offline brick and mortar shops, you want those data to be cross-connected, and you want them analyzed in real time in order to be able to foresee the future. And cloud is coming with a lot of, help here.
Right. So they're prototyping more or less from the store, and then developing more or less online after that.
Or the other way around. When you are buying a TV, for example, right? Would you first go to the shop to see which one do you like more, or would you rather read online? I mean, all things are happening at the same time today. So it's really hard to say which one is the first step, which is second. It's all omni.
Right. Okay.
I think the pandemic times has proven us that we can actually behave quite differently. I mean, for those who are not convinced maybe before to shop online, for us as G2A, we are a digital platform selling digital products. It's always been digital, right? So it's easy for us to maintain the same course and talk in the same way to our customers. However, I see there is actually a great example of combining physical and digital experiences. There is an online shop very well known in Poland who recently developed physical shops in shopping malls, where you can actually try on shoes and order them online, or do the other way around. You can e-size me in-house and then purchase something in store on the tablets. And I think that this sort of experiences would be dominating the next years, because customers expect from us something that, as you've said, gives them touch and feel in the physical, stores, but also that they can get to know more online.
Yeah, I've actually seen that in clothing stores in London, where they will try on 3 pieces and walk across to a box on the wall.
Exactly.
In with the card or in with the code, and out comes a online looking, postal looking delivery, which they made 3 days before as the order, but they want to stand in the shop to take it. That's probably also because our postal system is not happening.
But there was, if I might do this,
Yeah.
because we're touching on, you know, the core of my domain, which is the delivery experience in general.
Yep.
So what we've seen, the change in habits during the COVID, there's been a lot of, you know, I think it's connected to also during those times the capital was quite cheap, so we've seen a lot of experimenting in those spaces. And startups like, for example, you get your, let's say, free t-shirts home, and the courier actually waits for you to try them on and check which one is the best fit for you, and then only you pay for this. You know, there's been a lot of experimenting things like this, but the problem is always...
Well, hold on, because when you said startup, I thought you were talking about the t-shirt maker. You're not, you're talking about the courier.
I'm talking about the
quite hard to be
facilitating
a startup courier.
Yes, and exactly, that's what I was pointing at, meaning at some point you're always up against the wall with the scale and with the cost of it, because in the end, the most expensive part in the whole courier business is reaching actually, like, you know, the density of your parcels, meaning you don't want to go door to door 90 times and wait half an hour at each and, you know, listen to the customer being, you know, picky and do I look good in green? That's not what you want. You want to actually drop them off, take 10 seconds to drop the package and go your own way.
But Paczkomaty is another great example of that.
Yeah.
Can I say Paczkomaty, or do I have to say Paczkomat?
Lockers
Lockers.
would be the best word.
APMs, yeah.
Yeah, you have to translate for me, so lockers is best.
Yeah, there's a company which has seen a lot of growth during the pandemic as well, which is those automated lockers where you leave stuff for the courier,
Right.
and you can get delivery both ways using those. It's scaled up dramatically, great success as well. But I haven't seen the latest. Are they now still growing, or is it?
So in general, the whole space of APMs, like APM stands for automated parcel machine.
Yeah.
So this is like, you know, the box on the street that you can just walk anytime you want and get your parcels home. So the whole space is still growing tremendously.
Okay.
I think it's now, it used to be like, you know, this Polish phenomenon, but it spreads across Europe now. So we can see the space growing in Czechia, we can see, you know, Italy, UK. So there are a lot of vendors trying to do it right, and there are different approaches. One is this fully proprietary way of actually this is mine, and I have my couriers coming and going there. But there is also the more agnostic approach, meaning I'm the owner of the box on the street, and then multiple couriers can come and visit and drop their goods there. So we're a bit, you know, off track into my domain. So sorry for this diversion, but
that's very good. Because to me, I'm thinking surely that causes trouble with the credit card companies because they don't like you delivering not to the recorded address of your payment method. They want, so my credit card is for my address, parcels must come to me. I couldn't say, give it to that guy over there or whichever. So the contract for payment becomes more important then.
I don't think it's the case, because at the end of the day, those companies, they have some sort of data platforms that that are able to stitch those information, right? So you have the information coming from the lockers, where there is a user ID at the end, which is then searchable across your data, because you know who you are selling to, and you can use mobile phone number, for example, or QR codes to sort of find out around your data.
Yeah, we're jumping ahead to QR codes there. We'll get to QR codes in a minute. Cool. So, in enabling a startup, so here we are. We have to pay attention to the great, in England we call the Great Resigning, where 40% of the workforce have changed their employment or their whole career, and that makes for a lot of mixing of process from one industry to another industry, because people turn up and run a startup or something. how, as a marketeering function, so you're nearly excused from this one, how do you engage with people who have almost no experience when trying to make a business model work that depends upon people noticing this new brand, this new service with lockers and these processes? That's really, I think that's with you, isn't it?
Could be with me, but I think it touches upon any of us. I mean, it's a difficulty, as always, with communication and education about the products, about the ways how to make the experience brainless for the user. I mean, as you said at the beginning, it's all about the consumer. It's all about the having or finding a way to present the content, whatever the content is, in the most luring, of course, and appealing way, but also easy way for them to understand.
Yeah.
And it's a difficulty, it's a challenge. Certain solutions being developed even now, AIs sort of things, will all help us in that, let's say, endeavor in different ways. I can imagine shopping assistants, collaborations between AIs, voice AIs, synthetic realities, and celebrities even being, if I can imagine Bria Larson or Isaac, a famous influencer, being impersonated as a synthetic AI that helps me choose the content on the shopping platform as ours or Allegro's, choose certain products, explain to me all the use cases, that would be great. Right. I would feel much safer and much more convinced that this is the shopping decision that was actually made by me with the help of somebody who helped me through. Plus, of course, the free return options, plus maybe the payment options like buy now, pay later. This all, eliminates barriers for the buyers. So that's the case.
Then I think the key barrier, sorry, I'm not excused after all. The key thing here is on the let's say first steps of the process, meaning if I know what I want to buy, when you enter, any AI's assistants and so on, they can help me because I already have some idea in my head of what I would actually want to achieve. But the inspirational part, actually knowing about stuff that I don't know, this is actually like the according to regarding your question of new startups or new products, this is actually knowing that there is something out there that helps me fulfill my needs, and I don't know it. And then the hard thing is here might be how to influence those assistants, AIs, and so on, to actually also learn about those new things, because in the end, the AI models are, they feed on the data. Yeah. If the data is not there in the internet, if it's not a popular thing, then they don't know it as well.
Except that you're saying that the AI's sources is about the product. That's a product explaining AI. So that's a closed universe. They don't have to worry about a big universe of customer types and demographics and preferences and sort of.
They could feed on different data sources. They could feed on internal data sources of the companies that sell those products, but they can also feed on the general data and search for use cases and search for experiences that the other users had. If you combine that with let's say in Asia, video streaming and social selling is very popular, and those type of, let's say, selling methods induce our desire to purchase something. Not that we want maybe something, but induces the desire to have something. And if you combine those experiences and feed it into AI, that kind of shopping assistant will be very powerful, because that they can explain it to you what are actual use cases for the product that you want to buy.
Yeah, but personalization, I think, is the key. That's why I think it makes sense, because in the end we have a different way how to sell it different customers. Yeah. In the end, is to build a customer experience which is, I could say, safe for us. Why? Because we want to. They came back. They will happy with the product which they already buy. They came back to buy another one. So we need to build a safe, I could say, place to them. So. Is it a personalization about the product? Is it a personalization about the bot who responsible for I can say some kind of conversation, who understand what is your mood, where you've been before? That's the key. And I think that's a great opportunity in front of us. And all those chat GPT engines, all those things is the opportunity for all of us to extend, I could say, our customer-centric approach and thinking about the customer as an individual. which I could say probably 10 years ago wasn't possible at all.
But it's interesting that you're talking about how integration improves the marketing success rate overall. The bottom line single number is you get more completed sales by integrating the data sources. But the service platforms you're talking about are still not integrated. So Alexa is Alexa, and everyone's kind of forgotten it, and no one talks about it now, right? And then ChatGPT is mostly text, not voice, but could be really interesting if they were combinable.
Yeah.
I've seen the medical cut of IBM Watson, and the really interesting thing that could easily bring to these parties is transparency. So it doesn't just say you have COVID. It says 95% of the people with this list of symptoms have COVID, and you can check whether you got it or not to your own satisfaction. So it makes it subservient and transparent. And to my mind, listening to the trends you're talking about, I don't quite see why the marketer of a single product, startup with a clever idea, like the lockers is a clever idea, why a single product marketeer would want to own the AI. Aren't you saying that this AI is owned by the consumer? That it's a sales assistant which actually is within the consumer's data pool, not within the single supplier? Where's the best ownership here?
This was my point, that if you're coming up with a new product, at some point there has to be a way for the AI or whoever owns it to know about it, and it has to be some kind of API, something transparent that you can actually feed new ideas into this AI without the own, because if there's a single owner, like you say, okay, let's say this ChatGPT, it actually there's a bit lack of transparency, and how fast can it learn new things. If you start with a new product and you ask ChatGPT today, hey, what would I do to, tie my shoes? And there was a new discovery yesterday, or a new startup with something great. It might not know about it. It will not inspire you, and this is a gap. And this is a kind of also like a risk for those new products coming from especially from smaller companies, if the AI becomes really prevalent in our funnel of customer choices.
But I question the idea of it being a very pure AI that does this job, because I know I get reader feedback. They never hesitate to tell me when I've got something wrong, right? And I know what they'd say. They would say that Amazon's mechanism for saying 500 other people who bought these things is enough AI, and that's been here for
and it's actually not AI, it's people doing the manual work underneath.
Okay, so it's a populated. It's not a raw compute search process. It's
mixed.
Has domain knowledge in thinking about it. Because from my point of view as a creative person, I want to find out the ChatGPT data center and land an asteroid on it. Because, where's my income stream out of it? But the outcome around that sort of technology process appears to me to be entirely about trust and the transparency of the process of the advisor that's coming to you.
But this is what the new regulations in the EU are coming to.
Exactly.
Like you say, hey, if it's going to decide our lives, let's at least know what are the criteria. It's what's behind the magic. Like now it's it's not black box for the specialists, but for mortals like us here.
Well, yeah, but that's to a tiny group. I don't read source code. Sorry, but so the transparency I'm thinking of is almost in transaction. So for instance, my earlier prepared question was that it's great that everybody's now shifted into QR codes by force of nature in pandemic. Everything was my vaccine is this code here, and it's the fact that it's my phone that reads the code, and I get to say, yes, now use that, and I want to know what's in that code, what it said. and that therefore that's a functional transparency, not really a source code transparency. Right? I couldn't care to see. I think my last source code was in COBOL. So,
you could be hot on the market right now for COBOL.
Yeah, exactly. It's still there.
I know. Not enough time, but that's another conversation. So yeah, if you're making a decision about how to market yourself in an economy which is very smartphone enabled, but very interested in cloud AI in the industry side, in the development side of the process, who should provide the transparency score? If I'm reviewing 5 shopping baskets, how can I evaluate which one is more transparent as a consumer, not as a developer?
That's the point, I think. The question is, who is the owner of this data? Because I think we are losing our ownership about our own data. This is the problem. Because in whatever transparency we imagine, in the end, someone will have the business on that. That's the truth. And the question is, who is the real owner and who have the business on buying what we want to buy? So in the end, what probably will not happen, but will be the perfect solution, is we decide what data we have, what data we share, and what we would like to achieve on this data which we have and which we share with different providers.
There are a lot of ideas in this space, spearheaded by people that have been running internet in the 60s or inventing it, building it. So there are a lot of ideas around this, but like your personal safe data vaults or whatever. But the problem here is actually the awareness of the general public. Like, do I even care about my data? I go on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, whatever, and I just scroll things, and I generate a lot of data about myself, and the awareness is shifting now, but it's not there yet to actually put another barrier there, because owning your data means some kind of responsibility, but also some kind of barrier. If you connect something with your, let's say, I don't know, Gmail account, Google account, you have this nice little window saying, hey, you're going to share this, this, and this. What do? You click allow all. So, even if we have some mechanisms in place already, it's still, we still need to elevate our
education.
Educate everyone about the.
Then you're
ownership.
giving up on the convenience a lot.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But people have been made inconvenient by a pandemic. Have been inconvenienced, I mean.
Yeah.
So they're used to the idea that it takes 2 hours to sign into an airplane flight, because you must upload your certificates and your your digital identity. I actually think that the earlier example of the lockers, excuse me, is an interesting symbol, because what you're arguing for is an online version of that locker. In here, so the first pass has been the wallet. Do you use the wallet on your phone?
Yeah.
I do, a lot.
I'm an old banker, so I don't. Definitely not. But that's not quite complete. You want to know who has accessed my wallet. What money do I need to put back in my wallet? And those functions are a cloud repository thing, not a phone thing. Even with the size of phone, you can have that. Again, as marketers, should you try to push people towards that very online process? Or are we at the stage where my train ticket had a QR code? It wasn't a smart train ticket with a blinking light or anything. Yeah. It had a printed QR. So are we seeing a rise of passive systems now that everyone must have a phone for other reasons? Is that something that drives the new or old business owner in choosing who to pass their marketing through, which is your space very much?
But it's, I think it's both or two separate things. I mean, using or pushing the customer into digital is a natural process because of the cost efficiency. I mean, we want to use digital sources, digital channels because of the cost efficiency. Politicians are pushing us toward digital toward e-commerce because of the footprint, the carbon footprint we generate. So digital is not only the channel of choice, the channel of customers to choose. It's very convenient. It's where consumers feel they have an easier experience. They can either way print the QR code. They do not have to have their phone to show the QR code, but it's just easier for them. It's very convenient. So I don't know if it's a matter of pushing them heavily to that solutions. I think that the solution that they need and have.
They prefer that in many ways, yeah.
But then what you said about those, because what I got from your question is also this trend towards decomplicating things, meaning making them simpler and simpler. And I think it is there, but it's driven by convenience of customers, not by some grand philosophy. And from my space, meaning from logistics, a good example is that basically whenever you want to return your goods, you used to have to, print a label and stick it on it. How many people actually have printers now at home?
Yeah.
So some of us, and then you haven't used it for half a year, and the ink is dry. But anyway, this was already a simple non-digital process, just print it and stick it on it. Yeah. But it's still too complicated if you don't have a printer. So what's next? Well, the next one is label-less returns, meaning you only, have a code and you use a marker to put it on the box, and that's all you need. It's even simpler, it's even less digital, but it's more convenient for the customers. So this is something that we should strive for. If simplicity achieves convenience, let's go for it.
Okay. In being persuaded, this is one of those things I've thought of in the last 10 seconds, so pardon my hesitancy. But in observing that everybody's assumed to be digital because of a government drive, how do you handle people who, it's a very English term, so pardon me, but people who block their copybook? It means that you make a non-jail time infraction, or you make some mistake, or you're hacked, or your identity has been stolen. So, for example, I cannot hire an American rental car from one firm because I'm in their bad person list. I cannot contest that. There is no address to go to. There is no process of forgiveness or pardoning, because the assumption is that all website infractions are punishable in the same way. Membership over, password deleted. There's a very you end up being blacklisted, and you cannot find the door to knock on to say, "Hi, no, you're wrong." Right? It's not a problem. So we've heard about things like this in the Chinese social scoring concept. In marketing to people and targeting them, I'm now thinking about people who do debt recovery. So someone has been very bad, they've been removed from a website, they owe some money. Their reputation has to have a means of being both scored and recovered. You got that look. So, how does somebody fix a problem of accusation like that, even as you stand now? And what do you see that as changing? Because it affects the ability of people to market to the imperfect human. And I stand here representing the imperfect human for sure. How do you fix that as a supplier of services to keep customers buying?
Maciej?
Yeah, my experience from DTH platforms, so my previous life, was that you give someone this set-top box which costs around €200, and sometimes someone is disappearing, different ways, whatever. But I think so you have two approaches. First, you have the blacklist, of course, because you lost the trust with the company. But in the end, I would say let's wait, because people are different way in their life. They make mistakes. It happens. So there is many examples of people who makes mistakes before, and right now they are crystal people. So we say, okay, let's put some kind of penalty as a part of our relationship for some times. So if you rebuild this relationship with us, we'll give you back. That's fine. And honestly, it increases our sales around 20%. Because you have young people who want to watch match with colleagues, then they do not receive the set-top boxes. That was 10 years ago. But right now they are family guys with the family. They want to give the children entertainment. Why we should say sorry? Because you are not that person which you've been 10 years ago. Yeah.
This kind of forgiveness is actually a great way to build trust with the customer, because there is mistakes and there are frauds. So if somebody makes a mistake, if you as a company owner or policy maker, you forgive them, you actually say, hey, I trust you. I know you can make a mistake. I trust you. I know there's going to be a little fine, some inconvenience, but let's build this relationship, further on. Of course, there's a fine line when you get frauds. So you have to actually be good at catching this
difference.
The difference in your company, and where you can actually invest in the relationship, because basically this is investing in the relationship. If somebody loses a 200 euro setup box, this is kind of an investment, because it will pay off in the long run.
So how does this evolve? Let's get back to everybody having an Android phone, because they're cheap, okay, and widespread. How do you have a path to getting to that perfect relationship? Because at the moment, the mechanisms and the data structures are not there, right? Is this something that people ought to think about as vendors, as sellers to the public right now, or is it 5 years away? What do you think is the forward roadmap here?
I mean, as a relationship with the customer?
Yes.
For me, it's regardless whether this is a phone or desktop, whether this is Android, iOS, it doesn't really matter actually.
Well, I was thinking about the whole kind of shift towards apps instead of mobile web access, right? Because app appears at the moment to be preferred for security. And I see those trends come and go since COBOL. There's been a lot of fashionable and unfashionable processes, and I'm interested in how long term we are now. Do you think the COVID effects have now calmed down, or are we still ramping up and changing?
No, I mean, again, for me, it doesn't really matter what the device, application, non-application, access to the consumer is. It's a matter of trust. It's a matter of somehow of how the consumer perceives the vendor or the provider of the data, whether they care about the relationship or not. And of course, the application gives certain, let's say, better ways to talk to the consumer, and that's obvious. But again, and this is about building trust and building relationships. Maybe the forgiveness is also a kind of a building trust and a real relationship. But I think we are getting back a little to the moment and times where we are building communities and affiliations because of the cookie-less policy and all that. Right. But I think that we would move. I think the blockchain market is actually about communities, and we are moving toward those kind of, I would say, shopping experiences. So
I'm amazed that it's taken until the last 5 minutes for you to say blockchain, because that's should have been one of the really big winners in an increase in digitalization. And my view, again, I'm an old banker, so I don't see the whole crypto plus blockchain space as really having a role in the next few years. So we've got about a minute for each person to respond to that.
I think there's a great deal of business for the blockchain sphere, actually. I mean, just because they are not in demand right now, it does not mean, I mean, gaming industry, I think, is a great use case for blockchains, for NFTs, for instance, for that matter. So I would say that in the next future, the metaverse combination with the NFTs and maybe some specific payment options within metaverse would become a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah.
1 minute. Who's next?
Non-fungible tokens. Have you heard about Neil Stephenson? He writes books.
Oh, you're very much a big fan. Yeah.
And he's investing right now into blockchain company because he thinks that what's happening with those AIs in metaverses, it will be a huge crisis of us being able to mark up our ownership on things because all things are being used for those AIs. So he thinks that blockchain is actually going to save us from it, and I pretty much like the idea that actually we already have the technology like blockchain to say exactly on each block who owns what, and it's going to be very good for the future.
1 minute. 1 minute more.
You mentioned about this, but I get the feeling that we expect revolution. And in my opinion, this revolution is silent revolution. It's a little bit more evolution. If we are sitting here, how many technical revolution we see it already? So 4 or 5 in our life? Come on, it's a huge one.
Yeah.
So what I truly believe, this is evolution. We expect bigger revolution because it was a Bitcoins, all those things. But right now, this technology will be implemented each and every place, which will really help, really deliver added value for the companies, for the future, for the customers.
I find this really interesting because I remember 2007, credit crunch, lots of businesses just stopped, and that drove a great big spike of innovation. The matching spike now has not arrived yet. They had 3 years in the back bedroom, right? And we're not seeing those products yet. So that's all still to come.
Yeah, so the curve was really high right now,
Yeah.
but like every time,
Yeah.
it's going to be flat, and then we will try to find a way how to monetize it.
Last comment for 1 minute on.
Yeah.
So that's with you.
Yeah, that's for me. So I think blockchain has a potential. The ideas that are there are sound, of distribution, transparency, giving the ownership back to the people. I just don't think it's going we're gonna see it's the biggest impact in the financial space per se. I don't know if we're gonna pay with tokens at some point, maybe. But I think the real evolution, just as Maciej said, is going to be the silent one, using those ideas, the tech that's behind it, to empower this kind of more distributed trust in different areas of life, even the ones when you don't expect it, and you might not even know that you're using it. It doesn't have to have huge blockchain on the forehead.
Very good point.
To actually be powered by the tech that enables us to do so.
Okay, it falls to me to say thanks very much. We didn't use our pieces of paper at all. I think that was a great conversation.
That's why I didn't bring any.
Yeah, yes. How did you realise? Thanks very much for that.
Thank
Great
you.
contribution, and we're done. Thank you.